See, I'm used to all Look, my neighbors had mariachis in their yard like almost every day. Somebody in the neighborhood did.
Muy buenos días y gracias por estarnos acompañando una vez más aquí en Canciones de Domingo con Silvia por KUHS Denver Radio y Televisión. Y estoy muy contenta porque tengo una invitada aquí en el estudio y es una mujerón, así que estén atentos para más información acerca de su carrera y de todo lo que está haciendo en estos momentos y de un proyecto donde trabajamos juntas que ya probablemente ustedes vieron fotos de esto en el Facebook, así que les voy a estar platicando un poquito de eso. Good morning. Thank you so much for being with us here in Canciones de Domingo with Silvia, KUHS Denver Radio and TV station. And I'm so excited because I have a guest here in the studio. It's not a Zoom interview. It is here live, and this lady is amazing. And we work in a project together that we're going to talk about, a little bit later, so make sure you stay tuned. I'm going to be translating in Spanish as well, so make sure that our speaking Spanish audience doesn't go anywhere because you guys are going to know what we're talking about. Good morning, Donna. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me.
No, thanks for coming, especially Sunday. I don't know what you do on Sundays, but usually people just lunch around. They don't want to even take a shower. They just want to relax, and you're here.
I do that all the time, though.
Oh, you do? Well, thanks to COVID, right? Thanks to COVID. That's what we do.
Thank you.
Wow. But thank you so much, Darla. And so you have a career that, of course, when we're in the entertainment business, we have to do so many things. We're producers, we're directors, actors,
writers.
Writers, editors, sound engineers. I mean, everything. So you do a lot of that stuff. So tell us a little bit about yourself. When did you start in this big entertainment industry, and if there was somebody from your family that actually inspired you to be here?
Well, it's interesting because I grew up in Southern California in Azusa, and there's nobody in my family in entertainment at all. But I was really bitten by the bug when I saw the musical Sound of Music.
Oh, yes.
And so I was really inspired, and I thought, looking at that shot where Marie is coming down the hill, the opening, I thought, oh, I want to do that. I want to do that.
You wanted to act?
I thought I wanted to just act because back then, that's all you could do as a female.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
So I thought, well, that's my goal. Well, I never thought in a million years that I would end up directing or producing or writing.
Wow.
Because they didn't tell us. They didn't tell girls that you could do that.
Exactly.
So, but my mom, who was very poor, she grew up very poor, and she always made it a point to tell me, you can do or be anything that you want. And so she was like my biggest fan. She always supported me in everything I did.
That is so beautiful, especially when our families, they don't have the money, they don't have the resources, they kind of try to push you to a career where you can make the money, and knowing, especially back in the day, how hard it was to get in the entertainment industry, or to make it like a big, make a lot of money and stuff like that, and for her to do that, that was wonderful.
Well, it was great because, she didn't know how to help me. And so as I got to be a teenager, she would, I found out you used to write, not email or text, but you would write to the studios for tickets to see their shows being taped.
Oh, okay.
So I would write and get tickets for Carol Burnett, Sonny and Cher show, Tony Orlando and Dawn. And so my mom would drive me from Azusa into LA to CBS Studios. So I would go there and I would watch. I loved watching the show, but I always wanted to know what everybody's job was.
Exactly.
And so I kind of became a groupie and hang out at the studios. When I started driving, I would take my girlfriends and we would go. So they knew my name. And so they said, why are you here? I said, I really want to know what that job is. And so that's how I got my early education. Because I didn't go to film school, any of that stuff. But I started as an actor.
Well, that's one of the things that, a lot of people, they're born natural. They have the drive in them that automatically how to do things, or just by seeing it, you learn. You don't have to really go to school. I mean, a lot of people that do a lot of stuff, they didn't go to school for those things. It was just something that just happens. a lot of people, you know, we have to go to school. Depends on what it is and how easy it comes to us, you know,
Sure.
and stuff like that. So when you say you became a groupie, how often were you at the studios?
Every week.
Every week?
Like every week that like the way they set up the shows, they would rehearse, the actors would rehearse their shows like Monday through Thursday.
Oh, okay.
And then they would do tapings on Friday and Saturday sometimes. So I always made it a point to get those tickets, and we drive over there and hang out. We actually go in and watch the shows being filmed.
Well, there's a point like they already like the security people knew you, and it's like you don't need your tickets. They're like, you know, you can just come in.
Yes, it got to where, like, for example, I was at a Sonny and Cher show taping, and Darla, what kind of ice cream do you want? Because they were doing a sketch, you know, with ice cream shop, and Cher was making ice cream cones for people.
Oh.
So she'd say, Darla, what kind of ice cream do you want? And I'd say chocolate. She said, too bad, we only have vanilla. Okay.
Wow,
so it was kind of fun. It was fun. I think really that is really what formed my interest in the business.
And so after you did all that you started like seeing how things were being produced, directed. That's when you started acting.
I started acting actually on stage when I was like 8, like in theater, and then I made the change to working in film when I was 18. So, but I did like all school musicals in high school and things like that, and I usually played the comedy person. So that was fun.
That was interesting.
But I also did props. I was very active backstage with the props.
So you already were like practicing the backstage, you know, things. Wow, that is wonderful. Let me just translate a little bit before I forget anything. So lo que Dala nos estaba diciendo es que ella desde muy chica, ella quiso ser actriz, fue lo primero que ella quiso ser, porque en aquel entonces las mujeres no podían hacer otra cosa nada más que actuar, no podían producir, no podían dirigir. Entonces ella cuando vio la película de que viene siendo El sonido del viento, ella quiso hacer como esa, cuando abre la película donde viene bajando la actriz, ella quiso como hacer esa escena y desde entonces ella le decía a su mamá que quería ser actriz y la mamá siempre la apoyó. Dice ella que creció en California, Osusa, California, y dice que no tenían dinero, pero la mamá siempre la apoyaba a hacer lo que ella quería hacer y siempre le decía que aunque no tuvieran dinero, ella podría hacer lo que ella quisiera, nada más que le echara las ganas. Entonces lo que ella empezó a hacer, bueno, en aquel tiempo para ganarse tickets para ir a la audiencia de cualquier programa tenían que escribir cartas. Entonces ella escribía cartas todo el tiempo para los estudios allí en Hollywood para ir a ser parte de la audiencia cuando filmaban los programas de Cher, si conocen ustedes a Cher, y ya muchos más. Entonces dice que ya se le hizo costumbre estar ahí todo el tiempo, tanto que ya la conocían ahí. Dice que una vez que estaban filmando en el programa de Cher, Cher estaba como repartiendo nieve y hasta le dijo por su nombre, le dijo, Darla, ¿de qué sabor quieres la nieve? Que le dijo ya de chocolate, y le dice, oh, no es de chocolate, es de vainilla nada más. Entonces, dice que ya cuando ella empezó a ver también cómo trabajaba la gente alrededor del set, que viene siendo ya dirigiendo las luces, todas las cosas que hacía la gente detrás de cámaras. Ella empezó a actuar desde los 8 años en la escuela, empezó a hacer las obras de teatro que hacemos pues en las escuelas. Después de esto, a los 18, ya empezó a cambiar a filmación. Pero también cuando ella estaba haciendo teatro, ella estaba haciendo muchas de las cosas que se necesitaban para el set. O sea, ella estaba trabajando un poquito detrás de cámaras con la decoración del set y todo eso. Entonces, pero así fue como ella empezó en esto de la actuación y del mundo del entretenimiento. So, Darla, tell me, when you started acting, when you changed from theater to film, what your family said?
Well, you know, for the most part, they just thought it was, I think they thought it was just a hobby. You know, I mean, because, I mean, my dad was like, you know, that's a pipe dream, you know, and you need to get a real job kind of thing, and that kind of thing. But, you know, they just, I think they're still in shock sometimes that I make movies now and direct and produce. They're like, what are you working on? What are you doing? Who are you doing it with? You know, so, and unfortunately my mom passed away several years ago, so she didn't get to see my first film that I made.
Oh.
So that was kind of sad. But
Yes.
but you know, my daughter, my brothers, and you know, I have nieces and stuff. They're still like, we don't believe that that you do this, you know. And it's just, but I think it's been an example, like for my daughter. You know, I was a single mom, so she's like, I used to work in aerospace. I used to work with NASA.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that.
So yeah, so I worked on space station actually, and so you know, I worked that in the day, and I worked entertainment stuff at night and on the weekends. And I think, you know, she's always like, how do you do all of that? It's because it's your passion. You'll go find a way to make it happen, and that's the key.
Exactly. That's why I tell a lot of people, you know, like when that's your passion, it doesn't matter how many hours you put into it, the sacrifices that you go through, that you have no social life, pretty much. It's kind of funny because we have like social life, but at the same time, it's like not really social life. It's networking.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
It's like you have to go there. Like, you're always on parties. I'm like, yeah, but no.
Yes and no. It's not. Yeah, you're not there for the. You are. I'm there for the people because I love the people.
Yes.
But that's what it's all about. It's all about the connecting and talking with people and supporting others that are in the arts doing other cool things.
Exactly, and that's why people don't understand. They think that you're always either partying and you don't want to go to their parties, you know. And it's like, no. And usually too, people in the entertainment industry, you know, we work like most likely is from Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So pretty much all the events, you know, family events, you know, social events, you know, where sometimes we can't do that, and a lot of people don't understand that. But it is kind of crazy. Last week, unfortunately, you know, Facebook took down my interview with the wrestlers, but I have some wrestlers that, you know, they were telling me, you know, they have a regular job, you know, Monday through Friday, and sometimes Friday night, they had to wrestle. And then they had to go out of town, you know, Saturday, Sunday to wrestle somewhere else. And they said the people that are close to them, you know, they understand them, but most of the people, they don't get it. And it's like, well, that's their passion. That's what they do in it. I mean, they say, well, poor things, they don't have a life, but that's the life they chose. You know, that's why the sacrifices come.
But don't you like it when they say things like, well, you're just really playing at it?
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm not just really playing at it. You know, it's a lot of work.
Yes.
And yes, we love it and we're passionate about it. And if you don't have the passion, then maybe it is work.
Yes.
Maybe it is a job. But when you feel like you can't not do it, then you have the bug. You have the passion.
Yes, and that's so we don't really, you know, it is sometimes hard not to go to certain things, but at the same time, you know, we are fulfilling our dreams.
This is true.
So that's why,
and
like,
sometimes
you know,
it takes a while to fulfill those dreams.
Yes, so you have to be patient. You know, you have to work really hard. And have you had these people that they come to you and say like, "Well, you're so lucky to be where you are"? Do you think like lucky? No, I work my butt off.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I'm always like, well, I'm where exactly? Because you're making a project and you're completing a project, and hopefully it's being well received. I like the part where they think, oh, you're really famous, and you're going, no, no, I might be infamous, but I'm not famous, you know. So I do enjoy that sometimes, but yeah, they're like, I'm like, well, it's not about. Yeah, there is some luck, you know. Some people say you have to have a little bit of luck in this business, in particular. I think you have to have a little bit of luck in life in general.
Yes.
But if you're not pursuing it and doing the work, I don't think you're going to have that luck because you're not putting yourself in that position to network.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you say.
And also, like, you know, you're preparing yourself for when that luck comes. You're ready for it.
Yes.
You're like ready to take the opportunity, the chance, whatever it is that is coming to you. Because a lot of times, you know, people are just like, I'm just waiting, you know, like whenever my luck
they'll knock
comes,
on my door. They're going to knock on my door. Somebody's going to call me and say, I'm going to give you $1 million for this film fund.
Yeah.
And you're like, that ain't going to happen. You
No.
have to go work
Yeah, that's a lot of things that when you guys see that somebody's been successful, it's not probably they were like the one lucky person in like a billion that somebody came to them and said, you know what, just because the way you look or the way I don't know, like I feel about you, I'm gonna give you this,
Right.
or I'm gonna either opportunities, money, whatever it is. But most of the time, it's like you guys don't see all the work that is
Right.
before that. You don't know, like even if it's like a 15-year-old and you're like, well, that lucky person, now is so famous, but you guys don't know when did that person started singing, acting, whatever it is
Right.
that is doing. Sometimes it's like 5 years. Some kids, I don't want to say like the families are really like putting the kid into like do something.
Well,
and
not
they're, like,
everybody's
start
born
working.
into the Osmond family, or not
Yes.
everybody's born into the Jackson family.
Exactly. They don't have the resources.
And there are those that, if you start looking at, oh, this person's father was in movies, that's how they got the door open. But they still had to earn their place there.
Exactly.
And
sometimes it's harder because when they're like related to somebody that is really big, they always compare you to that person. It's like, well, you're not as good as your grandpa or your dad or your mom.
Right.
And it's like,
right.
but no, they're totally two different persons.
Right.
So it's like,
right.
why would they be the same?
Exactly.
Right? So, so that's a lot of things that I've seen even nowadays when there's a singer and then the children, whatever that person, starts singing and they're like, oh, that doesn't really sound like the person. Like, well, it would be kind of weird if they do. I mean, probably a few will do, but.
Right, yeah. I mean, and I was going to ask you, I hope it's okay to ask you this.
Yeah.
What do you know about, or did you care for Jenny Rivera?
I know some of the stuff. I care about her. I think she was, a woman that went through a lot. And I know a lot of people don't like her music. I'm going to say, like, I like some of her songs.
I like some of her songs.
Yeah,
right.
and some don't. I mean, it just.
The reason I ask because her kids are all in the industry.
Yes, now they're
and now they are. See,
yes.
So it's like there's a case of, and she was born into the industry with her father and stuff. So it's the same.
Yeah, and it's so funny because if you compare like her father. Like I don't think anybody said like, oh, Jenny or Lupillo or any of the other brothers and sisters, like sing like the father. Like they never said that. But now that her kids are singing, it's like, oh, they don't sing like her. It's like,
right.
Yeah, they're totally different. But
so that's why the reason I asked is because we were talking about families and here's these kids that. But if you know anything about them, they all worked.
Yes. Since they were very little.
Very little, right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can have both ways.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, there's no luck. It's always like working really hard for what you want and, putting it all. Like you said, when somebody was, asking you the other day about like how you're doing this and you start explaining how you were doing things.
And they get that deer in the headlight blaze in their eye and they're like, they stop listening. Because you can tell where they stop listening because they're like, oh, I didn't know it was that much work.
Exactly. And that's one of the things, like when people start asking you and you start telling them, you kind of lose these people. It's like, because they don't want to hear it. They want to hear like everything was easy.
Yes.
And that's how it looks. But at the same time, you don't want to really tell everybody, your whole story, your whole like, okay, I went through all this to get this project together, because a lot of times people, they just want to see like the beauty of things, they don't want to see like the stuff, like
right.
on the project.
Well, the saying, the cliche is, oh, they're an overnight success. I don't think anybody is ever an overnight success.
No, I don't think so.
Because nobody knows, like, I mean, Pink, for example, the documentary came out on Amazon this week, right? And you watch it, and she doesn't go into too much of her younger years, but enough that you know what her story was, and she had to fight to get where she is.
And people just saw Pink, from like one day to another, and they thought that she was, just
like, oh wow,
overnight
sensation. Oh, she's overnight, and she's been like doing this since she was young, or Gwen Stefani, or any of those,
Exactly, but it is, that's one of the things that I'm like very glad to know you. Because I know that you've been working really hard and, like getting to know a little bit more about you, from the project that we watched the other week. Last week, right? Yeah.
Oh, it is. This last week. Huh?
Yeah.
It was Wednesday.
Yeah.
Right.
So you guys are going to hear about it. It's an amazing project. So tell me that, like, what are the plans that you want to have for yourself once the pandemic is over?
Well, I liked being able to see my grandchildren, and I still see them. I did see them. I did get on a plane and fly back east to see my grandchildren. So, but I think, to really be able to interact more, I really miss, like you said about the parties and I'm the president of Women in Film right now here in Colorado, and so we haven't been able to even have events. We're going to have our first event in July at East High so I'm excited about doing stuff like that again. Getting back to that where we can give back to our community and encourage young people in what we do in the industry, that kind of thing. So that's really part of it, but then of course be able to make films
and be more like without being scared of anything happening.
Yeah, it's difficult as an independent filmmaker to even get a project off the ground financially. Yes. But then when you bring in the pandemic, and then you're like, oh, okay, now my budget is like that, and now it's like this.
Yes, exactly. Because now, that's one of the things that you guys, I don't know if you guys can understand when there's events, especially during the pandemic. Now, even though there's less people, so now is less money for the artists or whatever it is that, is happening.
Right.
There's also more money that is going to people for security. They have to pay now people to watch other people have their mask on, to tell them, this and that. Other people giving you the gel sanitizer and all these other measurements. They had to have more security just to make sure everything is secure. And so that's less money for the artist, less money for the promoter, whatever, how many people are involved in there.
Well, even the theater where we saw the film the other night. Okay, so I pay for rent the theater, I pay for the full price for the theater, but you only get to have this many people, so it's harder for us to because now other people are upset because they didn't get to come.
Yes.
You had to kind of pick and choose who worked on the core of the film the most, and then these other people have to come the next time.
The next time. Yeah, after the festivals.
After the festivals. Well, we're hoping and praying that we get into a festival here. We've submitted to a couple big ones here, so we'll see.
Cool.
So maybe that'll be.
And what about we start talking about the project?
Oh, sure.
Yes. So this project, I was contacted by Darla to do this project because it started. Well, in her mind, she has something going on first, and so that's when you contacted me, and then things change.
Right.
But you still made me part of the project.
Yep. I thought the project was going one direction, and it went a different direction, but I still had you in my mind, so this has been 3 years in the making.
Yes.
So, and that's just how I work. If I have somebody in mind for something, then and it sort of changes, I'll have to, I in my mind will make a point to where can I use that person and give them the opportunity, even though it's not quite the same.
The same. Yeah, no, I appreciate you for doing that. It was a wonderful experience. I never, I've been fortunate to not have breast cancer in my family. So it was for me an eye-opening, everything I saw.
You're a great warrior, too.
Yeah.
Everybody said, early on, I would show little tidbits because we had shot that part pretty early on, right?
Yes.
And so people say, oh, man, who's your warrior? Where'd she come from? She's exotic,
Thank you.
And that's what we wanted. We wanted that great look. You have this beautiful look.
Thank you.
You're a stunning woman. And it's like, I had this image in my mind's eye, and I thought, who do I know that can do that? I remember we worked on that project together, remember?
Yes.
As acting. And so I thought, I'm going to call her up.
Oh, thank you so much. It was it's been a great experience for me. And even though like the project is very amazing, it's super emotional. I was crying, but I was glad that I wasn't the only one. I heard the whole theater, and I was like, okay, I can do it, like really, like, people are not gonna look at me weird. So, like I said, I learned a lot with this, and I think a lot of people are gonna learn a lot, even people that are going through this. So tell me a little bit how the project started and how it ended.
Okay, so Initially, it started because I did a short film, and that was called the 24-hour intimate position. And what that one was about was a young woman who kept getting fired from jobs. She couldn't find her way. And then she found a job. Of all the places, she found her place at a lingerie shop. And everybody's mind goes one direction. And then they're like, oh. So she, being in her 20s, ends up having to fit a young woman her age walking in her 20s for a mastectomy bra. And she had been left all alone in the shop in the film. And so while I was working with the women that owned that particular shop, it's no longer here. The lady retired. But I kept thinking, man, these women that do that job, that's all they do is fit women for mastectomy bras. And I thought, well, let's tell that story. And then I'd go and have lunch with these women, and they would tell me about their experience. And then they'd say, you know, you really should meet this woman. And then well, you should meet this woman. And, oh, she did this, or she's done this for breast cancer. And all of a sudden I realized when that lady was retiring and going to close that store, that all those ladies that worked there for years were going to scatter.
Yes.
And so I thought, well, maybe that's not the story. And then one lady that worked there, she said, why don't you call this one gal, Suzanne? So I called Suzanne on the phone, and then Suzanne, she did all this data dump on me, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then she goes, you got to call this person. So then I called that person, and then that person said, call this person. And then they said, oh, you got to meet Tony, and she's a nurse navigator, and she's also a breast cancer survivor. And I went, oh, okay. I thought about it, and then I went to bed one night, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I always keep a little journal by my bedside, and I wrote, Courageous Warriors, Beauty from the Ashes. Like, I got the name in my dream.
Wow.
So I wrote it down, and I thought, okay, where is this going to go? And I kept thinking, gosh, they are. They're warriors. They're courageous, you know, and they have all created something that is beautiful to give back to others while they were in the middle of their fire. So I kept thinking it's kind of like the phoenix rising out,
yes,
you know, but that's how that came about. And so then we didn't know who to interview, so we just kind of interviewed a lot of people, almost 100 people.
Wow.
Males, females, medical people, things like that. And so then we did a first cut of the film, and it was like 3.5 hours. And I was like, oh God, nobody's ever gonna watch this. So we kind of, my editor and I kind of looked at it, and I said, you know what, I think we got to go like this. So we just started moving pieces around, like a chessboard, you know. And I'm like, okay, 5 people all say this. Who says it the best on camera? Not saying one is better than the other, but one is more impactful.
Yes.
So then you have to go, okay, those people are out, this one's in, and that's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
That's like even in a narrative film with actors. Like if people come in and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this film is too long and I have to cut that scene. So I don't do that anymore when I do narrative films with actors. When I write a script, whatever I put on the page is going to get shot and be in the movie, because I cannot do that emotional thing where I have to cut people out.
Yes, yes, it's hard.
But the documentary, it's really hard because they have shared their intimate story with you.
Yes.
And you want to validate what they said. So what we've done is we made this documentary. It's 90 minutes, and we have all these episodes over here.
Okay, like final cuts and like, you know, extras and things
we
like
took
that.
all the stuff, like everybody that got cut out of the documentary, because, like, for example, Hope Held by a Horse, the one nonprofit organization that Diane started, that's going to have its own, like, episode.
Yeah, because it's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, yes.
You know, so I mean, that's how it all came about. And then, two, my mom passed away from breast cancer when she was 60. I started this project when I was 60. I felt like it was the time.
Okay.
Like, and then my best friend, who I was also her caregiver, she passed away at 60. And I thought, okay, there's something here, so I need to start it now.
Yes.
So I'll be 63 in July.
Wow.
So it's
those 3
years. 3 years.
Wow. And I know, like, when you said that there's a lot of people that they didn't make it to, like, the film, and a lot of people don't understand, like, why do you take them out? Like, you know, they're saying their stories and stuff like that, but at the same time, you're thinking about the people that are watching the film, that they're gonna be actually understanding and be captivated by the people that are actually talking and getting the information out instead of, like, you know.
Well, and the thing is, like, you could have 3 people there, and one person, it's really beautiful what they say, but I'm thinking in the back of my head, oh, but this would be better over here in the series where I have more detailed stuff, and then this over here is, it's not like it's generalized, it's just probably better information to be disseminated to a larger audience quicker.
Okay.
And so it has been very emotional for that reason, because when people let you in to this kind of intimate piece of their life and their journey, you're kind of feeling like, well, first of all, they're your friends now. That's the key.
I mean, you spend so much time with them.
You spend so much time with them, and then you're crying with them, and they're crying, and you're you know, trying to console them and understand what they're trying to say, and making sure that what they want to convey to others is what you bring to the screen. And you know, even you know, I've had females shooting for me behind the scenes, guys shooting for me, and it's amazing that they're all like crying. And so when you edit, people ask me, well, how do you do this for 3 years? How do you work on this film and not cry? Well, because sometimes you have to turn it off and you have to look at business-wise. What am I looking at business-wise? And then you're like, okay, stop, and let me go outside, take a break, and the tears come, you know, because it's so emotional, and what they've created to give back to others as a gift freely. They don't charge people to go to their programs. They're just giving it away. And to me, that is probably, that's the most tremendous gift that anybody could offer, having gone through that, or are in the middle of going through it.
Yes.
And then have that wherewithal to say, maybe I could help somebody else. I mean, really, how many people, when they're going through that,
they're thinking about somebody else?
They're thinking, I'm going to go help this person.
Yeah, it is hardly anybody, you know, especially nowadays, because
I'd probably be in the corner crying, going, I can't help you, I can't tell you anything right now, talk to me later.
Yeah, or even like trying to receive help, you probably are like, no, thank you, you're going to tell me things just to make me feel good, but I know the truth, and, you know, and things like that. Right. And that's one of the things that really surprised me about this film when I watched it, that they were doing these things while they were going through it, and also, like, when they're done, you know, sometimes you think, like, I need a break from this. I don't want to hear anything about cancer, like, for the rest of my life. But no, they go back and they deal with other women that are going through the same
and they
thing.
have said to me, you know, initially I thought, I don't want to be a poster child for breast cancer. And then they were like, well, who am I? You know, maybe that's what my purpose is here.
Exactly.
Maybe my purpose is to help somebody else that's coming down that line. Let's face it, nobody has cured breast cancer. The treatments have evolved and are better in some cases, but people still lose their life to it, you know? And so if you can say, well, this is what worked for me, it might work for you, and maybe you'll be comfortable going through that path, and maybe you won't. Yes. But let's say here are some things that are available to people to help them.
Yeah, because not everything is gonna work for everybody.
Correct.
Too. You know, right. It's like the way we learn. A lot of people are, you know, hands-on. A lot of people that just listen. You know, and it's the same thing with treatments or with any other type of help. So let me translate this in Spanish a little bit.
That's a lot.
Yeah, we got quite a bit. Bueno, lo que estaba yo preguntándole a Darla de qué es lo que ella planea hacer para cuando termine la pandemia. Ella es ahorita, como quien dice, la cabeza de la filmación de mujeres de aquí de Colorado. Entonces lo que dice que lo que extraña a ella es socializar y los eventos que tenían con la compañía. Usualmente tenían eventos para que toda la gente que estuviera interesados en la filmación y en cualquier carrera, bueno, cualquier posición de la producción, de mujeres pudieran venir y agarrar información y poder ayudarles a seguir con sus sueños. Pero pues desafortunadamente todos esos eventos acabaron, pero el primero es ahora en julio. ¿Es en June or July the event that you have in for the association?
Oh, for Women in Film?
Yeah.
It's July.
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 So, es julio cuando tiene el primer evento, entonces sé que está muy contenta acerca de eso. Lo otro que estábamos hablando también es todo lo que ella ha trabajado para estar donde está ahorita, y como dice ella, muchas veces la gente también piensa que es cuestión de suerte. Dice, sí hay suerte, pero pues como decimos, tienes que estar preparado para cuando la suerte venga, que puedas aprovechar esa oportunidad. Estamos hablando también de la filmación o del filme que ella acaba de hacer, el que les platiqué yo del cáncer de mama. El proyecto empezó como ella quería hacer una película acerca ella hizo una película que se llamó Posiciones Íntimas. Es de una persona, de una mujer que no podía encontrar trabajos en ningún lado y finalmente encontró un trabajo en una tienda de lencería donde tenían que probarles brasier o vendían brasieres para las personas que habían perdido pues su pecho por el cáncer de mama. Entonces dice ella que empezó a hacer como otro proyecto donde hacer la historia de esta mujer que veía las historias de las mujeres que iban a comprar esos brasiers y cómo era tan doloroso estar viendo todo eso. Pero cuando empezó ella fue a una tienda de lencería aquí en Denver, que ya no está, y empezó a hablar con las empleadas y le empezaron a contar de que, ay, pues que tal clienta tiene esto, tal clienta tiene lo otro, deberías de hablar con esta persona para que te informaras de todo lo que están pasando ellas. Entonces de que así la mandaron con diferentes personas, con diferentes mujeres, y después como que se le cambió la manera de pensar, que en vez de hacer como una película, hacer un documental acerca de todo lo que sufren las mujeres cuando pasan por el cáncer de mama. Entonces dice que una vez estaba ella pues en su cama, ya era de noche, y usualmente ella tiene un cuaderno enseguida de su cama, y se le vino a la mente un nombre que viene siendo, a ver si lo puedo traducir correctamente, pero viene siendo como los grandes guerreros que resaltan de las cenizas. Entonces ella escribió eso como el ave fénix. Entonces dijo, entonces de ahí a dónde cómo vamos a llenar ese título. Entonces empezó a hacer las historias de la gente que le estaba contando cosas, y empezó a trabajar con ellos. Sé que entrevistó a más de 100 personas para este documental, y pues que fue muy doloroso empezar a sacar a unas, porque sé que en el primer corte la película quedó como 3 horas y media. Dijo, ¿quién va a querer ver una película de 3 horas y media? Entonces se juntó con su editor también y empezaron a ver cuáles eran los casos que impactaban un poquito más. Pero todo lo demás lo tiene en otros cortes. Ahí mismo va a estar so everything's gonna be on like the DVD, right? When it comes out, like the final cut and then like the other extras and stuff like that.
Yeah, it'll all be available in various different formats, probably.
Oh, okay. Entonces todo lo demás va a estar de todos modos disponible para la gente que lo quiera ver, porque son muchas historias y es mucha información. Entonces lo que ella quería poner en el principal era lo que más la información que más busca. Entonces así fue como salió el documental. Digo, a mí me contactó ella por primera vez cuando pensó en el proyecto de hacer la película, pero después ya cuando cambió, dice que me tenía todavía en mente. Yo abro, como les digo, la escena de la película soy como una guerrera, y yo abro la película, y ahí fue donde yo participé. Así que yo le doy muchas gracias por haber pensado en mí, por haberme tenido en mente, no nada más ya cuando cambió el proyecto, sino cuando ya hizo el proyecto nuevo. Y lo que estamos hablando es de la gente, de las mujeres estas que están en la película o en el documental. Todas estas gentes han tenido el cáncer de mama. Unas son sobrevividoras, ya terminaron todo el procedimiento y todo eso, y están ayudando a otra gente. O sea, son gente que pasó por todo eso. Cuando terminaron, empezaron a querer ayudar a más mujeres a seguir adelante con recursos que ellas no tenían disponibles cuando ellas tenían ese problema. Entonces es lo que quieren ayudar. Y muchas también todavía están por el procedimiento y están ayudando a más mujeres a pasar por todo esto. Y es lo que decimos que nosotras, o sea, si estuviéramos en ese caso, diríamos, no queremos oír nada más del cáncer, no queremos saber nada más del cáncer de mama, pero estas mujeres están siguiendo ayudando a otras mujeres a que sigan adelante, a darles las oportunidades que ellas no tuvieron. Porque una del documental, ella buscó ayuda hasta en Canadá y no encontró. Entonces ella ahora tiene un programa muy bonito que ahorita vamos a hablar de él, para ayudarle a la gente, a las mujeres que tienen este problema. So that I was thinking, what's the name of the lady that has the horse program?
Oh, it's Diane is the founder, and Suzanne Hagmeyer she's the director now.
Oh, okay.
She had gone through the program, and she was so impacted by it that she's gone back to school, and I think in July she finishes her therapist certification.
Wow.
And so she's the director of Hope Held by a Horse now. And so she went through a divorce from her cancer.
Oh.
And then when she went through the program with a girlfriend, she thought, oh, I'm just helping my friend. Well, then she was changed. So she went and she called her ex-husband and told him what had happened. So he called the other lady and said, what about this horse? What happened? Because she's completely different. She's better. So they got remarried, and he bought her 5 horses. She has 5 horses now, and those horses are being trained to go into the program to be able to help more people.
That is amazing, because I was just telling our audience that, I think it was Diane, the one that went to look for help and resources,
she couldn't find it.
And she couldn't find anything even in Canada.
Correct.
And that's when she thought, well, I have a horse, and that's what he's been helping me. So
right. So she started the program. Yeah.
And so you were there at the program, and you didn't go through the program.
No,
right?
I didn't go through the program. We were just there filming, and I would tell the guys, oh, go get this piece and get this piece. Come with me, let's go do this interview, that kind of thing. But I had some time while I was there to kind of interact with some of the horses, and some of the horses interacted with me. Like I was 5 feet away, and the horse came over and just butted me in the stomach. And I was like, okay, I'll go over here,
Yeah, come on, bother you?
Yeah, I was like, I was like, oh, she doesn't like, her name was Sassy, that horse.
Oh, wow.
And it was appropriate,
well.
right?
Yeah.
And I said, oh, she doesn't like me. And the therapist said, nope, that's not it. Just pay attention to what the horse is saying. And I'm like, what does that mean, She said, well, sometimes the horses will touch you someplace on your body if you have something going on.
Oh.
And I go, well, I only have something going on because she hit me in the stomach.
Now you're hurt.
And she goes, no, think about it. What does that mean to you? And I said, well, I was a little nervous on the way over because to me, horses are big.
Yes.
And I think they're beautiful, but I'm not so sure I want to be that close to them.
Yes.
And so I was a little apprehensive going over there, and I didn't really know what to expect. So I was a little nervous. So maybe my stomach was a little uptight, whatever. And the therapist said, no, but what else? And I said, well, she hit me hard, but I'm still standing. And she goes, and what does that mean in your life? And I said, well, people try to knock you down. Sometimes they knock you down and you get back up. Other times they hit you so hard you feel like they knocked you down, but you're still standing. And I think for me, it was representative of my life in the industry, in the film industry. Because let's face it, sometimes you get bam, know. And so to me, I thought, wow. And then as that was going on, I started thinking about, I didn't really ever talk about my mom and having cared for my mom, and then how my dad cared for my mom when her cancer came back. And then several years later, I ended up going and take care of my girlfriend because her husband was very distraught and he didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
They were high school sweethearts. So he was just really torn up. So I thought, oh my God, I've got issues from this and not realizing it. And then just spending some time with a horse, and like the one gal says on our film, she says, and that horse doesn't care if you cry in their fur. Yes. They don't care. But when that horse came and there were 2 horses, not Sassy, but these other 2. One was called Hollywood. Hollywood and Indy.
Wow.
So
there you go.
those horses came and they put their heads around me, and I was like, bawling.
Like, that's it. Lost it.
And I thought I lost it, and then on the way home, I thought, oh my God, I just want to go hang out with those horses. Because it was like, there was this release. And so that's why I say, if I can help through this film to give that to one other person, that relief, because they find out about these programs and they get to experience it, then we did our job.
Yes.
And so I never went there with any expectations, but I kept thinking, well, don't you need me to come over and play with the horses? I want to come play with the horses some more. I need to film some more, you know? And so, you know, and for me, like I told you earlier, one of the ladies that came to the screening the other night was from Denver Health, and she works in the resource center. So when she sees people with all kinds of cancers and all kinds of diseases. They come there for resources. And she came to the screening, and she called me the next day and said, how do I get Mexican women into this program? I said, well, it's free. Doesn't matter. They don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter on your ethnicity, you know. She goes, yeah, but how? I need to be able to bring interpreters. I said, bring them. So she's going to bring 8 women that they don't speak a lot of English, right, to the program in September.
That is so wonderful.
So that's what I expect to happen with the film. That more people are going to find it, and we're actually working to start new chapters of Hope Held by a Horse in other states. So that, yeah, there's a couple that we're already trying to get that to happen.
At least like the ones that are close to Colorado. You
well,
know,
like Kansas, Wyoming, Texas, and then I have connections with somebody out in Nashville.
Oh, okay.
So we're trying to, and then because I see our music video was playing back there, because of the music video, somebody saw it in California. They're coming here to go to the program because they saw the music video on Hope Held by a Horse's Facebook page.
That is, and isn't it incredible how one thing leads to another?
And that was kind of how I told you the 24-hour intimate position came first. Then I said to Tim and Turi, I said, you know, I need a song, something that's about, I keep hearing girls like me, they get knocked down, but they get back up. This happens, they get back up, they do all this stuff. And I said, but I wanted to be so that when I do a music video, that I embrace traditional roles, but also showcase those that are non-stereotypical.
Exactly.
You know? And so I said, but that song is going to be for the film. And so, but I wanted to put the music video out ahead so people could start getting that song, and that song has been released and it's starting to get played in places. And so then we put that in the film. So it's all been part of our plan, the little brand, the branding, if you will.
Wow. And that's one of the things that the people don't understand, like how much of impact like one little thing can do. This is not a little thing, of course, but I'm talking about, you know, just somebody just coming to watch the film, you know, and I was like, okay, you know, I do know more people that needs this type of help, and but they don't speak the language. So what can I do to make it happen, you know? And they
in the film, I do have the film captioned in Spanish. See, I always caption in Spanish. Even the music video, we have it available in French and Spanish.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's awesome. So if anybody wants to, like, well, you can only watch the trailer right now, guys, because, you know, like we were talking about, the film is going to festivals. And unfortunately, if somebody watches it in public, the film doesn't go to festivals anymore. And
the chances are you won't get distribution either.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And we wanted to go as many places as, you know.
We wanted to help a lot of people.
Exactly, because, I mean, you know, breast cancer is so big. It is like just any type of sickness now, like having a cold, you know. It's
still one of the top killers within the cancer diagnosis.
And then I didn't know, I found out on the film that there's different type of cancers that you can have on your breast. Like, I had no idea until the lady was talking, like, I have one type of cancer in one breast and then a
And that's
different type
very
of
rare.
cancer.
It's rare to have the same cancer in both breasts, but it's even rarer to have two different kinds, one in each breast.
That's crazy. And also, I mean, what's the name of the DJ that was talking that he had breast cancer too?
Murphy Houston.
Yeah, that he was talking about that he had breast cancer. That was new to me too.
Yep, guys can get it, and fortunately, not as many men get it, but more of that smaller percentage die because they don't know and they don't check. And so he makes it a point now when because he DJs and he goes to, he like hosts a lot of charity events. So he always says, I'll do it for you, but you have to let me address it. So he makes all the men in the audience with their wives do an exam.
Wow.
So
yeah,
I think that's awesome
idea.
that he does that.
Yeah, and he was talking
to
somebody else
Beyonce's father had breast cancer. Yep.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I never heard of that.
Yep.
So and it takes to. I mean, I wish they would make it bigger so that way people like know more about this.
Right. That's why we're doing those little episodes. Our plan is that I hope that once they get the documentary, they'll say, what else do you have? And I'm saying, well, I have all these episodes more detailed about the men and what they go through and why guys need to know. And they need to check.
Because it's the same thing pretty much as the women, except, since guys don't have as much mass.
They don't have as much tissue, right?
It's like they don't take out too much, but they still go through that stuff.
And think about him. Think about if it was a man that had no connection to breast cancer, okay? But when he got it, he had already cared for his wife many years before.
Yes.
So he's like, what? And then after she cares for him, then hers comes back. So he's got this long history with breast cancer. So that's why he's very adamant and advocates to promote.
Can you imagine living your life like that? Like, okay, he's gone, and then now somebody gets it, and then the other one gets it back. That's like, I mean, in my mind, when I was listening to his story, I was like,
I know.
Oh my God. I was like, this is so stressful.
And look at how many years later and his emotion.
Yes.
When we interviewed him, I was like, oh my gosh. Because then we had to kind of stop because he started crying, right? And he, had to kind of straighten up himself. He felt like out of place. Well, it triggered my emotions with my mom and my girlfriend. And I thought, wow, I don't know if I can do this project. Because every person we interviewed was that way.
Yes.
You know? And even if once you turn the cameras off, then all of a sudden
you start, and especially because like nobody's watching you, then is when you start letting stuff
I can
out.
tell you honestly, I probably cried every single time on the way home in the car after interviewing people, just because it's a release,
Yes.
And you realize. But what I've realized in this project, and somebody said it the other night, they sent me a quote and they wrote me in the email. They said, "This may be about breast cancer, but it's a universal story because whether you've gone through breast cancer or you've gone through another cancer or you got diagnosed with MS or
type of disease.
Any kind of a loss, you will identify with the people on the screen."
Yeah, because one of the things that I liked a lot is that you addressed the caregivers.
Right.
And like you said, you didn't realize how your dad, did that with your mom.
And honestly, I didn't think about it until after I had the experience with the horses. And then I'm making this documentary and thought, oh, I'm such a schmuck. I didn't even ask my father because I was always really much closer with my mom, except when I go fishing with my dad. We always went fishing. And I was like, and he's very quiet. He's a very quiet man.
So it was like you cannot, you felt like you get close.
I didn't want to. When I went to the hospital, my dad went outside. When we were at the hospice, when we were going from the hospital to the hospice, I said, "Were you going to ride with Mom in the ambulance?" I can't do that. Because he was like this with my mom. And he was torn up. And I thought, what is wrong with him is what I'm thinking in my head.
I would want it to be right there with her.
Yeah, and so I'm like, okay, I got it. So I just kind of respected his space. I thought. And then I thought, we're making this film, and I kept asking these other caregivers, and I thought, God, I feel terrible. I never asked my dad. So he called me one day, and he said, what are you doing, baby girl? And I said, well, funny you called.
Thinking about you.
I'm thinking about you, this and that's going on. I said, you know, I'm making this film. This is what it's about. I'm talking to caregivers. Can you put into words? And he started crying.
Oh.
I thought, oh, crap.
Yeah, like, that's not what I was looking for.
No. But he just said, he told me a couple things that I was like, ooh, knowing him, that was really hard for him. It's hard for anybody, but really a big struggle for him. And because they gave us two options at the hospital. She could go home and they'd set up hospice in the home, or we could go to the hospice facility. I'm thinking, well, it'll be easier if we go to the home, to my childhood home. And he goes, no. I said, okay. Can I ask you why? I can't do that. I'm like, okay. Whatever that means to him, I'm not going to push it. So when I had to get in the ambulance with my mom and ride from the hospital to the hospice. Worst thing ever. I mean, you just don't even know what to do with that. And because in your mind you like, she's not coming back.
Yeah.
You know, so you go deal with that, and then when I get there and they're set up in this little suite, you know, and everything, and the nurses, those nurses, angels.
They have to.
They have to be, right?
They have to be.
I kept thinking, where is my father? He's out smoking. He's out smoking, chain smoking. He doesn't smoke anymore, but he was out there smoking, always on the patio. And he'd come in like, and he'd check, you know, kind of thing. And so when I asked him all this stuff, and he goes, you saw how I was. He goes, it was like that all the way. He said, I had to put my head down and just do whatever, you know, for her. And because I remember when he called me, it was New Year's Eve day, and he said, I'm at the ER with your mother. You need to come. And when I was like, okay, it's New Year's Eve, what's going on? And because he wouldn't really talk about how bad things were. So when he started laying it out for me, everything that he was having to do, and you know, you have to help him to the restroom, like Murphy said, you got to take him to the restroom, you're feeding him, you're doing all these things because unfortunately my mom was at the end of her life, and before, when I took care of her the first time, she was like, I don't care, I'm going gambling. I'm like, what do you mean you're going gambling? You're taking me gambling and I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm thinking, who's going to argue with somebody that's in that situation? My dad said, I was the same way. He said, the only thing he told me that I thought was funny, because he wouldn't really get into a lot of the details, but he did share that. He goes, you know, she didn't have any appetite. And nothing tasted good. And so, but some people in my old neighborhood where I grew up, I told you all my little cholo friends, they would knock on the door and they would bring weed.
Oh, okay.
Weed, because it would keep her from being in pain and being sick.
Yeah, hair is good for the nauseous and stuff like that.
So I guess I should have said cannabis. But weed. No, they told him, here's some weed. That's how they would talk to him, my dad.
Oh, okay.
And so, but the only thing she could eat, ice cream sundaes from McDonald's. That was
the
only
wow.
Thing. So
That's
he said, I just kept going there and back. I'd go right there and back. He goes, but every time I'd go there, and this is where the caregiver part came in, I had to sit there for a minute, just by myself. He goes, and then I would break down and cry. And if you know my dad,
that's a big thing.
That's a big thing. So it was really hard to hear that, you know. And I just felt horrible that, what is wrong with me? Why did I not ask him?
Because you were just focused like on your mom, and because your dad always put this face of like, I'm serious, and you probably thought that his feelings were a little bit more like I don't want to say stronger, but at the same time like
he's a strong silent type.
Yes,
you have to pull it out of him.
So you probably felt like if I said something, he's probably not gonna tell me. First of all, second, probably he'll be upset that I'm even asking, and third, he's gonna think that I think that he cannot do it.
Right.
Like you
all
know,
of
question him. Like he's gonna be like, I can do this. Like, come on, you know, give me a break. Not because I don't talk a lot or I don't spread my feelings too much. Like I can't do this. But sometimes those are the people that are hurt the most. Well, because they don't let it out.
And the thing is, you know, when my mom, when she got the cancer back the second time, I had to sit with her. And this is her first wedding ring, right? This is her upgrade. Okay, so I have both rings, and so she had lots of jewelry. That was because she grew up poor, so my dad gave her what she wanted. You know,
awesome.
She liked those sparkling things. So I would sit with her and we would bag up her jewelry and she'd make me label everything. And I remember my dad coming in and asking her about the gold chains, and she goes, no, you're not going to have those. And he goes, why? I'm going to sell them to get me a Harley or something. And she goes, you're not going, you can get a sidecar. She goes, because if you get a Harley after I'm gone, you'll be coming to see me too soon. So yes. You know, he would come in and they would try to have some jokes about some things, but he would only come in like for these little moments in time and go out. And she said, you know, you're going to have to take care of everything. She knew, right? And I just thought, okay, I'm going to take care of all the details. I didn't know I was going to take care of all that other stuff. And so when my mom passed, he did not have a clue what to do. And so that's why that whole caregiver experience, I thought, oh my gosh, people need to know that while our story, we have many beautiful stories that have not ended in death. I wanted people to understand that you could get that ending.
Yes.
That, you know, and some people said, oh, you shouldn't put that in there. You know, you shouldn't talk about that. Like, I'm not saying everything's all flowers and sunshine.
Yes, no, a lot of people don't make it. I mean,
No.
Most of the people don't make it. And that's reality, you know. But at the same time, it's like there's still hope. There's still resources.
Right.
There's still things that they can make the pain not go away, but be a little bit more manageable, right. or having something to be like, okay, you know what, I'm feeling like this right now. I know where to reach to feel a little bit better. Mm-hmm. Not so much like I want to feel great, because that's not what it is. I mean, a disease is a disease. It's going to hurt you. You know, there's pain. There's procedures that you have to go through.
Emotional trauma and the post-traumatic stress.
Yes.
That they go through every year on the anniversary of having to go get a mammogram and test and all that kind of stuff. You know, that's something else that we talk about. For example, there was one woman there the other night at the screening, and she's not on the screen, but she's the woman that connected me to all the people.
Oh, okay.
I did not know this. She was sitting in the back row. I haven't seen her for 2 years, right? Been working on it for 3.
Yes.
So I haven't seen her for 2 years. She has had cancer come back 4 times in different places in her body. Did not know. Her husband approached me and said, oh, Linda's back here in the back row, you know. I said, oh, I didn't recognize her because she had long hair now. And a mask on, of course.
Yes.
And he said, she's going through chemo right now.
Wow.
And that woman was strong and resilient enough, she still came. And that's the whole message of the whole film, is that you kick the door open and keep fighting.
Yes. Sometimes, and that's why these resources come handy, because sometimes when you feel like giving up, you know, they can give you that little hope that you still can do things that you want to do. You know, try to enjoy as much as possible, as much as you can when you're sick. Like you said, any type of sickness, any type of stuff that you're going through, there's always that little hope that other people, you know, programs or whatever it is, you know, can give you. And
well, even like Rosalba, who was in the film, she's a hairdresser. Yes. And she said, I thought I was the only one.
Yes.
And my personal opinion, this is just my opinion, I think that because it's lacking the diversity with interpretation and stuff, that's why we're doing the film and why we have it captioned in Spanish and things like that, because there are people like herself, they would fall through the cracks otherwise.
Exactly. And she wouldn't be able to be doing what she's doing right now, but she's helping.
Right.
You know, like she's helping And like she said, she goes and shaves this woman's head when they need to get
Right.
shaved. I
Yeah,
mean,
because
that's
a lot of
big
people
thing.
don't know that it hurts when the hair starts going to come out.
Oh.
My mom would get really bad, and she would sit and pull it because it hurt so bad. So
I had
she
no
would
idea.
she would wind it around her fingers, she would pull it out because she would get release. So that's why they say, no, don't do that. Let's shave it so it'll make it easier on you. And so Rosalba takes
Oh.
that experience that my mom had away from people. And then she also helps them, let's put on makeup, you'll feel better. And
Yes.
she puts their makeup on. And she goes, I know, darling, it's not very much, it's just little. And I'm like, sometimes it's the little
Yes.
that makes a big impact.
Yes.
If I call up somebody and they say, I'm really having a bad day, and I just feel like a steak. You know what? I will go get a steak and I'll come make you a steak. It's a little.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's
yeah.
the little things.
Even a smile, you're like having a bad day and you go into the store or something and somebody smiles at you and
Yeah.
you know, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, you know, or you smile at somebody. I have people, you know, like I'm always smiling. I don't know. Well, now with the mask, it's kind of weird, right? But, you know, but even the other day, I remember I went to the store and I had the mask. And so there was this older guy passing by and we were about to like collapse. And then I was like, oh, I'm sorry. And I think he noticed my eyes smiling. And then he's like, can I see your smile again one more time? And I was like, what do you mean? And I was like, I have a mask. I'm like, no, your eyes. Like, let me see your eyes.
You can see it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think too, like the mask situation, you kind of have to really look in their eyes now. You have to pay attention to their eyes because people can't see.
Yeah.
Oh, are they mad?
And they
Maybe it'll help us communicate better.
Exactly.
Right?
That's what I was thinking, you know, since we cannot be like looking at the lips anymore, you know, trying to read. You know, we look at the eyes and we feel the emotions. I think, you know, the eyes talk a lot. And that's one of the things, you know, like being an actress, you know,
Right.
and modeling, you know, you do a lot with your eyes. And that's a wonderful thing when you can see somebody smiling at you,
true.
you know, without seeing their smile. And that makes, you know, a big difference to people. So when there's like pandemic is over, you can ask, you don't know how to smile with the eyes. Do it with your lips, you know.
Like,
it will make
people,
yes. People will get really, really happy. I have some people always telling me like, oh, thank you for the smile. I'm like, oh, you're welcome. I didn't even realize I was smiling, you know, because that's just how I am. And that's, I think, like how people should be, you know,
right.
just in general, you know, just try to be as, I don't want to say like as happy because we all have issues. We all have problems that we go through. And sometimes there's really bad days, you know,
Yes.
but if you smile, it even makes you feel a little bit better. So any little things, like you said, Darla, that's a big help. And Rosalba putting makeup on girls, I mean, sometimes we're thinking like, we're all screwed, you know, why even do that?
Right.
Like, I don't feel pretty at all. And once you put that, even if we're not sick too, sometimes we're like, with the pandemic at the beginning of it, how many of us even got ready? You know, we were just like, it was so much depression.
Yeah, because
you know?
people realize, like, I'd realize, I don't think I've been outside for like 2 weeks, and I'm like, I think I gotta go to the mailbox.
Exactly. Like, let me put makeup on.
Let me put makeup on. Let me get dressed. I'll go out to the.
Yeah, because they said before, you know, you go to the store and you were like on your sweats and stuff like that. Now you go to the store, you get ready, you put makeup on, you do your hair. It's like, it's funny, but those memes, you know, are real.
It's
you
true.
know, it helps you a lot with your self-esteem and just brighten up your day.
And can you imagine, like, for example, my friend Missy, who's in the film, she got diagnosed last July right in the middle of the pandemic. And then she couldn't have anybody go in with her.
That is like the worst thing ever.
And so, you know, she and I had that conversation about, she said she wasn't already going out and getting dressed. She goes, she just stopped.
Yes. Because like the whole world kind of like crashes on her.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things that, you know, I love about the film, that they tell you the phases they went through.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you know, not all were like, you know, like we said, like all happy and they're trying to help out. They were trying to figure out what was wrong with them. You know, they were trying to figure out what was going to be next. Or some of them, they thought it was over.
Right, and they didn't know if, like, for example, the caregivers, the husbands, in most cases, were like, nobody told me, like, I didn't know, like, they don't tell you because they don't know or they don't want you to know. And part of it, I think, after interviewing the surgeons and stuff, I think it's that each person, there are some similarities, but everybody is unique in their individual treatment, how their procedures are going to go, how their post procedures are going to go, whether they get chemotherapy, whether they get radiation, or whether they get both, or they only get one or the other. And I think that is why they don't, it's like, well, I'm going to tell you it's like this, and then it's not like that.
Not like
it's
that,
like this
yes.
path over here, because each person is different.
Yes.
I mean, everybody's experience going to college is different.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? So,
you know, I was like, they remember high school, and they're like, oh, the glorious years, and I'm like, oh. Not for me.
Not glorious, huh?
No, not at all. So it's just like different experiences,
right,
you know,
right.
And that all depends, and especially, you know, people that they don't speak the language, you know, people that, they don't understand everything. Like I said, that's what my high school years were terrible, because I didn't speak the language. So I went through a lot of bullying. I went through a lot of stuff that, you know, it was really, really painful and to remember. And so this woman not knowing the language and being in this country and thinking, who's going to help me?
Right.
Where can I go? And thanks to your film, you know, there's going to start resources. And I'm thinking it's going to go bigger than what it's, it's
you
getting,
know,
you know.
And the one woman, Tony, I cannot pronounce her last name, Antoinette, but she's Latina, she says. I remember that part. I don't remember her last name though. And so she was in the business world when she got diagnosed.
Oh, okay.
She gave up business, went back to school and became a nurse. And now she's a nurse navigator. So she's the one that told me how that nurse navigation program got started. Started through the Patient Navigation Act. And I can't even remember his name now. Do you remember? The doctor? Harold Freeman.
Oh,
Dr.
yeah.
Harold Freeman in Harlem. And so he had women that were dying, and he couldn't figure out why they were dying. He said they shouldn't be dying. So he started a program called the Patient Navigators. And they were lay people. They weren't medical people. They were just like me or you or whatever. And like, we're going to go help this person figure out what they need to go through this process, paperwork.
Okay.
So if you can imagine, African Americans in Harlem, lower educated, lower economic background, did not know how to manage the medical system.
It is difficult even for somebody that knows.
This is true. So he started that and became the nurse navigators. So when he started that program, after within 5 years, 70%, it jumped to 70% people surviving.
Wow.
And so George W. Bush signed a bill into place saying that if you're going to be a cancer research center, you have to offer this. But even now, having nurse navigator is really rare because
they say that budget.
They don't budget cuts. They don't have enough money in the hospitals to fund those people. So the nurses who are RNs or are nurse practitioners, which is like a PA, they're doing double duty. So they also do the nurse navigation. So that, say somebody is diagnosed with breast cancer and they're having problems, you know, after their surgery they're having problems. They can call that nurse navigator anytime. And they can tell them, okay, no, you need to do this, or you need to go to the ER, or whatever. Or I can't find my prescription, I lost my pills or whatever. They say, okay, we can go get that worked up for you, and then you can just go pick it up. So they really help the people. And to me, that's really important because even as a result of this film, other friends of mine that aren't diagnosed with breast cancer have called me and say, how can I get this help? I've been diagnosed with this kind of cancer or this kind of cancer. I need this medication, but I'm getting the runaround.
Yeah, because that's what happens most of the time.
So I tell them, okay, call back to the hospital or the doctor's office. Tell them you want a navigator. And so far it's been helpful. But the fact that I would not have known that to tell people if I hadn't made this film and spent all this time with these navigators and these, you know, physician's assistants and all these people. And so it's like, there's people that I know that work in the medical community that don't even know that exists.
Isn't that crazy?
So,
That's how much like resources. I mean, even for people that are working in this medical field and they don't know that, how come somebody that is not even like say fluently in English is gonna know?
correct, exactly.
So that is when I was looking at that and on the film, I was like, wow, that's new to me. I was like, but that is a very good resource because a lot of times even the caregivers don't have any idea, and because they're so focused on the person that they're taking care of,
Well,
they
they're
don't
drowning
wanna,
too, you know.
yes,
Yeah.
and they don't want to like okay, I'm gonna take my eyesight of you and I'm gonna go and research. That's
Right.
that's a lot, and that helps them so much knowing this.
Yeah,
thought
I
it
can't.
was
I can't
incredible.
imagine. I can't. I had an experience when I was a teenager. We used to go to San Felipe, Mexico, and we camp out on the campground on the beach. It was a big deal. We went every year, and we became friends with the little boy that lived there and his family. And I mean, they lived in a very poor setting and everything. But I got an ear infection, really bad. I was really sick, got a high fever and everything. And so the gentleman who owned the campground, he took us to a doctor there in Mexico, and I was pretty fluent at Spanish at that age. I understood a lot, and I spoke enough that I could communicate. My parents could not communicate.
Oh wow.
So they took me to this doctor, and I look at it now and I think, I know how that feels. Being in another country or being exposed to a language that is not your first language, how are you supposed to know? So here's what happened. They tell us they're giving us a prescription. So we go to the pharmacia, right?
Uh-huh.
We go there, and I'm thinking I'm getting pills. And they go, here. They give us the vial and the syringe. Well,
Yeah.
we didn't know in the U.S. we didn't know that. We usually get somebody else giving you the shot. So I explained, and they weren't quite, my Spanish wasn't that good, so the gentleman, I went out and got him, he was outside, and he came in and he explained to them that we didn't know how to do that. So they were so kind. I remember I would get on my bike, and from the campground I'd ride into the town every day in the morning, and they give me the shot.
Wow. Yeah, usually that's what they give you, and then we had to do it ourselves.
Right. So, and we didn't have that experience in the U.S. And
Exactly.
so I mean, I remember people telling me, and like Rosalda specifically saying, Darla, I didn't know, and she speaks English pretty well, I
Yes,
think.
yes, she
right?
does.
And then, and she says, I don't know, I didn't know how to ask for help or this or that. Can you imagine? And so when I talked to the other lady, Elizabeth, she said, I have these women, they don't speak any English. And I thought, see, in my mind, I went back to that 13-year-old in Mexico.
With an ear infection,
Yeah.
not knowing anything.
Not knowing anything. So, and that's nothing in comparison to what this diagnosis is.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But for me to have experienced that, I have a better understanding. And I want other people to have that understanding.
Exactly, and that's one of the things that when I saw it, I was like, wow, that's incredible. I mean, hopefully we don't get to use it, but at least we can refer people to it,
Right.
if we need to. So let me translate it in Spanish.
Oh, man.
Entonces lo que estamos platicando es acerca del documental que hizo Darla acerca del cáncer de mama, como les estaba diciendo. Lo que estábamos platicando también es de que en el documental ella, por decir, resalta a las personas que cuidan de las personas que están enfermas del cáncer de mama. Porque muchas veces no ponemos atención en la gente que cuida a estas personas, solamente se enfoca uno en la gente que está enferma, pero no sabemos todo lo que pasa ni todo lo que sienten las gentes que cuidan a las personas que están enfermas. Hay un grupo de ayuda también que yo no sabía en lo personal hasta que vi este documental la semana pasada, y es la navegación de las enfermeras, se llama, y es un acto aquí en Estados Unidos que el presidente George Bush firmó para hacerlo, pues, que estuviera disponible en todos Estados Unidos. Desgraciadamente, porque cortan el presupuesto del gobierno, ellos están cortados un poco, pero es una ayuda de que cuando alguien está diagnosticado con el cáncer de mama o cualquier otro tipo de enfermedad, ustedes contactan a esta asociación o a estas personas, y ellos les dicen qué hacer, qué son los siguientes pasos para hacer, porque pues muchas veces en la oficina del doctor le dan el diagnóstico y dicen, bueno, esos son los procedimientos y es todo lo que le pueden decir, pero ustedes no saben qué consecuencias trae cada procedimiento, o sea, el doctor no puede sentarse ahí horas explicándoles lo que tiene cada procedimiento y las consecuencias, cuánto cuestan, dónde pueden encontrar los mejores medicamentos a bajo precio y todo eso. Entonces, ese sistema es el que les ayuda a la gente que está pasando por todo esto, para que ellos no tengan que empezar a investigar por otro lado ni nada. Ellos ahí están en los 24 horas del día, los 7 días de la semana, cuando lo necesiten, para ofrecer esta clase de ayuda. Lo que estábamos diciendo también es que, por decir, una de las personas que estuvieron en el evento la semana pasada y vio el documental, se contactó con Darla y le dijo, ¿sabes qué, Darla? Tengo como a 7 personas que no hablan inglés, hablan nada más español y me gustaría, tienen el cáncer de mama y me gustaría que ellas también participaran en el programa de los caballos, que es el que estaba contándonos Darla, de que es un programa que les ayuda mucho pues a sentirse mejor a las personas que tienen cualquier enfermedad, pero estos caballos están especializados para ayudarles a la gente que tiene como cáncer de mama. Entonces, ya Darla les dijo que podían ir también ahí, van a llevar a unos traductores para que puedan también ellos hacer partícipes de esta experiencia y ayudarles un poco con la enfermedad. Como decimos, el documental está basado para ayudarle a la gente que está pasando por esto o para cualquier otra enfermedad también, porque son muchos recursos que pueden ayudar, no nada más otra vez a la gente que tiene el cáncer de mama, es para todo el mundo. Y es lo que dice Darla, que quiere que cualquier tipo de ayuda que de esto salga, es para ella ya una satisfacción muy grande poder ayudar a la gente. Es lo que estamos ahorita diciendo. Lo malo es que pues el documental tiene que estar en festivales y no se puede enseñar ahorita porque después lo quitan de los festivales y queremos que sea distribuido en todo el mundo. Esas son como dice, las metas ahorita. El documental ahorita ya está también traducido al español. Está en español e inglés y pues esperemos también que en más idiomas también, porque pues hay el cáncer de mama es universal y son cosas que necesita saber todo el mundo, y no nada más la persona que está afectada por la enfermedad simplemente, sino también las personas que están cuidando de esta persona, las personas que están alrededor de la persona que los está cuidando, porque no nada más hay que chequear en la persona que está enferma, sino también en la persona que los está cuidando. Y es lo que está diciendo Darla también, que fue muy fuerte para ella. Este documental ya ha estado como dice, en trabajo por 3 años. Entonces ella lo empezó cuando tenía la edad de 60 años, que fue a la edad que murió la mamá de ella, de 60 años. Al mismo tiempo, la mejor amiga de ella, que le dio cáncer de mama, que ella cuidó, también tenía 60 años. Entonces fue cuando ella empezó como, es tiempo de hacer esto. Y ahorita ya va a cumplir 63, entonces tomó 3 años, o sea, es mucho, mucho trabajo lo que va en este documental, así que cuando ustedes lo vean, por favor, aprecien todo el tiempo, el esfuerzo, y pues ya ni se diga el dinero que va en todo esto, pero es un documental muy bonito que le ayuda, como les digo, a cualquier tipo de gente que esté pasando por cualquier enfermedad o que esté cuidando a alguien con esta enfermedad. Y si quieren saber más, yo puedo mandarles también el link de cosas de los recursos que hay ahorita para la gente que está pasando por todo esto. So Darla, it's almost time for us to go. Is there anything that you would like to tell our audience about the film, about you, about how can they find more information about breast cancer?
Sure. I did want to say that we got Dee Wallace
Yes.
from E.T. and Cujo, and The Howling is what she's mostly known for. The reason she agreed to narrate the documentary is because growing up in Kansas, her mom started a nonprofit out of her garage to help people that were diagnosed with cancer, and it grew to be this huge nonprofit in Kansas. And so when we asked her, and we did a Zoom with her to record her narration, she told me that she was doing it as a tribute to her mommy, because of all the work her mommy did to help people. And
she saw that.
So she saw that, and she loves our project, and so she wants to make sure it gets out there. So we were really blessed that I had no idea about what her mom did.
Wow.
When I asked her. So
So see, things like lead to other things, and so thank you, Dee Wallace.
Right. Yeah, exactly, because she's really a special lady, and so to help us along with our film, that's really remarkable. But we have a Facebook page, Courageous Warriors, Beauty from the Ashes. Actually, I have my own website for the production company, film-itproductions.com. But we're building the page right now for the film itself, so it'll come right off. So you can still go to that website and find information, but eventually we're going to have the Facebook page is where we post everything that's going on, and then it'll be up on the website once we get that piece going. So things have kind of happened fast.
Yeah, I know, especially now that it's finally finalized.
Right.
Because, we know cuts and stuff like that, it takes a while. So all the resources that we saw during the documentary, they're there.
It's on the Facebook page now, but then we're going to create a resource page actually on Courageous Warriors, Beauty from the Ashes website.
Nice. Okay.
So that probably will go up this week. So then we'll have a resource page, we'll have testimonials, we'll have, here's what's happening with the film. Do you want to have a screening in your city and things like that?
Oh, that's awesome. And also any type of donations that you guys want to do, because it is a lot of money what is needed to keep on going. You guys can contact Darla, either through Facebook or Instagram, whatever it is, your pages and stuff like that, right?
Right. Yeah, they can email me at filmitproduction7@gmail.com.
Okay, but I think it's easier if you just go to Facebook and find her.
It will be easier, that's for sure.
Yeah, so, well, thank you so much,
Thank you so much.
It's like a pleasure having you here and getting to know.
I just don't know how you do all that you're doing, because you do all the talking with me and then you translate it. And how you can
do my best.
No, I understand enough what you're saying. Spanish.
So you're not lying, right?
So I know, I'm like, oh yeah, she hit that point. Oh yeah, she got that point. So I do understand, I just don't speak it fast.
She will soon again. She hangs around with me.
I'm trying.
No, well, thank you so much. I appreciate all of you guys, too, for tuning in. Like I said, any type of information that you guys need, if you cannot find Darla, you can hit me, and I'll send you the information. I have no problem with that.
They can download the song. Girls like me, you can download the song, and that goes to help. For breast cancer.
Oh, that's fantastic. So make sure you guys do that. So I'll see you guys next Sunday. Love you guys. Canciones Domingo con Silvia, KUH. Well, see, I'm speaking Spanish already. I haven't said bye in Spanish. Thank you so much. Canciones Domingo with Silvia, KUH es Denver Radio TV Station. Nos vemos el domingo que entra. Y como les digo, si quieren saber cualquier cosa más acerca del cáncer de mama, de los recursos que tenemos aquí en Colorado, por favor, mándenme mensaje y yo con gusto les mando la información. Y pues nos despedimos y muchísimas gracias. Cualquier tipo de donación que quieran hacer, pueden contactar a Darla o me pueden contactar a mí y yo la contacto a ella y les mandamos la información. Muchísimas gracias. Nos vemos el domingo que entra en Canciones del Domingo con Silvia, KUH de mi radio y televisión. Un besote muy grande. Nos vemos. Hasta luego. And here on the air we continue with more